I don't know if there is a Republican foreign policy establishment anymore, frankly, that is not consistent with a neocon one. The Republican foreign policy, I guess, the Republican foreign policy, doctrinally speaking, seems to me to have been the Obama administration, with perhaps a slight derivation here or there. You know, sort of like a realism, but still fairly militaristic, and we're just going to focus more on special ops and keep those low-level, realpolitik. Everything else more or less the same. The Republican foreign policy primary doctrine seems to be neoconservatism. And because even Donald Trump, who was supposedly breaking that mold, right, cannot staff anybody but these neoconservatives in his administration. There just doesn't seem to be any other Republican foreign policy apparatus. And so what we're seeing now could be basically, I think, a twofer. I think Donald Trump, this is Paul Wolfowitz sitting down and saying this is the one thing that we could agree upon was weapons of mass destruction, even though there wasn't any. We all needed something that we could sign on to that wouldn't interfere with our particular agendas. And I think that's what we're probably witnessing now, which is Donald Trump is like, so this will help me with my campaign, A, B, and so I will get that hotel in Riyadh or in...
He said that if I kill him, they will get Ivanka a duty-free shop at the Kuala Lumpur airport. I think the answer speaks for itself.
That's not even funny.
I don't know what the specific get was, but the idea that there wasn't one of those gets would be...
There's never been a branded partnership with Ralph Lauren perfumes before.
Exactly. I mean, there's something. And then the other element of it is that clearly guys like Pompeo and Milley and Pence and whatever other names, Raytheon, Secretary Raytheon, and what other names that we don't know who make up the sort of like, the lieutenant level foreign policy advisors to those, the undersecretaries basically of those people. They all probably subscribe to this idea that anything we can do to destabilize that region, even if it's unpredictable, is good. Like, Dick Cheney, I don't think has had a single day in his life since shock and awe where he thought Iraq didn't work out well. I don't think he's had a single day where he didn't think,
I think it did
mission accomplished.
It did.
Exactly.
There was contracts awarded. The regimes were destabilized. They don't care about the proliferation.
They don't care about anything else. And I think like the destabilization, it goes like this, folks. Like if you perceive yourself as, in terms of the United States, to be a 100-story tower in a city of other buildings, none of which get past 60 stories. Or maybe there's one or two other buildings that are 100-story towers. If there's some type of event that knocks out 50 stories from everybody, guess what? There's only you and one or two others standing. Everybody else gets in rubble. And if you're in the penthouse, you're still in the penthouse of that 50-story building. Well, it's 100, now it's 50. But guess what? There's really nothing else. Everything else is still 50 stories behind you, below you at least. And so I think that's the theory. That's the only way to make any type of rational sense of this. That it's not that they don't have a strategy. It's that their strategy, their goals are just escaping most rational people.
Yeah, it's good for business. We got those. Our arms stocks are soaring right now.
It's good for business. It's good for domination. It doesn't matter if it costs us X, Y, or Z because it's costing them more. And that's the theory.
And it distracts the working class of both countries from protesting for their rights and divides people against one another.
It's possible. It's possible. I think
I've seen it happen.
Well, I think that happens. But I don't know if that's necessarily like...
It's not conscious always, but it does function that way.
Yes, I have no doubt. I mean, certainly it's undercut the reformers in Iran I
just want to say, I mean, I think here there's actually less juice for it. I think the public is relatively war weary in the United States, according to polls. But in Iran, like, I mean, look, I mean, how we responded to September 11th is obscene and has wrecked the world. But I don't reject all of the basic impulse of people being angry about that event. There's total validity in that. And so I don't even know. I mean, if you talk to people who are quote unquote reformers in Iran, I don't know. I mean, they would actually say, no, we're not undermined. We're unified. Like, this is totally unacceptable. Well, and we're synchronized in our foreign policy view right now. I mean, that's the total message. And, the broader they've been undermined since the day Trump got in office and started killing the Iran deal. I mean, that was what totally, because the supreme leader he specifically said under Obama, he said, I endorse these negotiations, but I will never trust the United States. So you have my permission to pursue it, but it's not going to end well.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Well, they're probably feeling a lot of the same feelings that Americans felt on September 11th. And you know how much that changed our culture here. So I don't know why it would be any different over there.
Yeah.
Right.
Here is Kellyanne Conway being asked a question. In fact, a series of questions. Now, these are dogged questions about Donald Trump's tweet. Let's put the tweet up first. The tweet was Donald Trump in the wake of the assassination of Soleimani. And he's saying Iran is talking very boldly about targeting certain U.S. assets as a revenge for our ridding the world of their terrorist leader who had just killed an American and badly wounded many others, not to mention all the people he killed over his lifetime, including recently hundreds of Iranian protesters. He was already attacking our embassy and preparing for additional hits in other locations. I mean, it's been quite clear that was not the case. Iran has been nothing but problems for many years. Let this serve as a warning. If Iran strikes any Americans or American assets. Now, this was, of course, in response to both the Hezbollah leader and the Iranian supreme leader saying, hey, reminder, we're not attacking American citizens. No way. No one should do that. When we chant death to America, we're talking about Trump, Bolton, and Pompeo. And so Trump is a little bit nervous about his own stuff here. So he goes on to say, let this serve as a warning that if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, we have targeted 52 Iranian sites, in parens, representing the 52 American hostages taken by Iran many years ago, which is insane. Some at very high level and important to Iran and the Iranian culture. And those targets and Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard. The U.S. wants no more threats. Okay, so be clear here. We have targeted 52 Iranian sites, and they will be hit very hard. So here is a question, multiple questions, being doggedly asked of Kellyanne Conway by a woman named Siobhan Kennedy. Now, you know these are going to be dogged questions, or I should say, she's from the BBC, Channel 4. You know this is a member of the foreign press because they're willing to burn their access to the White House by asking a relevant question and being dogged about it, as opposed to like either one that's going to get me on the anchor desk or one that will get me further access so I can do my book later and make some cash.
Kellyanne, how do you square the fact that the President and Secretary of State do seem to be saying two different things around cultural? They do seem to be. The President seems to say we are targeting cultural sites, which would be illegal.
He didn't say he's targeting cultural sites.
Did he not say that?
He said that he was openly asking the question, why in the world they're allowed to maim people, put off roadside bombs, kill our people, torture our people.
I thought you said he was targeting 52 sites, some of which were cultural sites within Iran, which would be illegal.
He said that they identified 52 sites.
But so can you
Are you speaking about hypotheticals, or I got to deal in reality today?
Well, I'm asking you: is he speaking about hypotheticals, or is he actually targeting those sites?
You're engaging in hypotheticals.
No, she's asking about something the President of the United States said on the record.
Is he speaking about hypotheticals, or are you actually targeting sites which would be illegal, which is exactly
he's identified
what
sites.
Secretary of State Pompeo has said?
Well, he's identified. I mean, everybody can identify cultural sites, but when you say we've targeted them, that means that you've targeted them. Like, I don't even know what. I don't even know what in other words.
He's targeted them for identification.
There is no other word that more explains the idea of targeting than the word target. Like, to make a target. And, remember, Donald Trump has already used Twitter, particularly in the past couple of days. It's like sort of the official way that he's going to notify Congress under the War Powers Act. So I think we can take these fairly seriously. Now, he could be lying, but if he's lying, they should say that. The Pentagon, meanwhile, felt obligated to announce that we will not be targeting Iranian cultural sites. But this is, it's all mission accomplished for them. And really, I think the big test will be, at least in the context of domestic politics, how it impacts the impeachment hearings we will see over the next couple of days. There's all sorts of weird dynamics with that, and we'll talk more about that later. But I'll just say, I'll wrap it. I'll say it quickly with this. Mitch McConnell seems to have been able to discipline his caucus, or I should say, at the very least, the idea that there's a March deadline for primaries against people like Susan Collins et al., and that has yet to pass, and that has disciplined the caucus in terms of calling for witnesses. The danger that Mitch McConnell has is that Nancy Pelosi will not feel pressure, or will get pressure to withhold articles of impeachment as more stuff comes out. I saw a tweet from Lev Parnas's lawyer the other day, yesterday, tweeting out to Kevin McCarthy, "Time for witnesses, Kevin." And there's a picture of Lev with his arm around Kevin McCarthy. Now, this is after, like, I have no idea what's going on. But it's nuts. It's really nuts. We're living in a very, very effed up time, folks.